New Year, same Texans. Let's relive some of our favorite moments of 2025. And for Houston's future, you don't want to get Shaq Masoned again, do you? I think not.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around. I am your Texans credential media member and football analyst, John Hickman. Fun show for you guys today. Future at right guard. You don't want to get Shaq Mason again, right? What do I mean by that? Well, last time Houston brought in a free agent right guard, the first year, pretty decent. After that, fell off a cliff. So how can Houston just make sure that they are better in that sense for the future? And Ingram has played some good football for Houston. So we'll dive into that. Just a look ahead at the Colts. That's going to end off the year for Houston. What a phenomenal year. Sensational, magical, Texans in the outfield type of year. Next week, well, this upcoming week, that will be the end of the regular season. Anything you guys actually want to look for or see from Houston before going into the playoffs? But we're going to open up today's show, New Year's Eve, right? We're all in the spirit of the holiday. Let's relive some of our favorite moments from 2025. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. And where are my manners? Shout out to my everydayers from the Himalayas for making the Locked On Texans podcast your number one listen. The number one Texans podcast, and for making Locked On Podcast Network now the number one sports podcast network in all of the nation. So when I look at reliving some of my favorite moments from 2025, there were a lot of them, right? But my favorite moments may be small to some, big all around, but I think each moment played a role into Houston getting to where they are right now. Number 5, the rookie running back, Woody Marks. Y'all remember that first Tennessee Titan game where it felt like, okay, y'all, how y'all do what y'all did last week and not follow up on it, right? Throughout 3 quarters. Then in the fourth quarter, everything got hot for Houston. You remember that game? Yeah. That Woody Marks touchdown to hit the outside, juke back on the inside, find the end zone. I thought that was a phenomenal play. I thought that showed what Woody Marks can be for the Houston Texans as a runner, but I thought that game overall was just a good moment for, I think, a running back group that was just kind of failing at that point, right? Just not explosive, didn't have too many explosive plays. And it also gave the Houston Texans a good look at, okay, we can get this guy some blockers out on the edge, and he can make some plays for us. So that was one of my favorite moments of the year. That's coming in at number 5. Number 4, the get-back game. Pause for a second. When I say the get-back game, what team, what opponent am I talking about? I'm talking about the Chiefs. The get-back game for the Houston Texans. And why that's number 4? Jalen Petrie and Azeez Al-Shaair. Azeez got his get-back. He got his interception, right? He played some great football for the Houston Texans. As we know, in the playoffs this past year, it was hard on Azeez out there in coverage. And so I thought that he rebounded well. He got his get-back. And for Jalen Petrie in the combination of both of those guys, they just reminded what the league looks like, should look like. And they reminded everybody that this is what hitting feels like. It was like the hitting boys, man. And obviously, I want you guys to join in on this as well. Give me your top 5 in the comment section on social media at John_Hickman12, or even DM me on Instagram at some sports guy. But that comes in at number 4 for me. And I also thought that was just a good game for the defense overall, right? Kansas City didn't have a lot to do. They didn't do a lot. Derek Stingley had a great game. Bullock and Kamari Lassiter had a good game. But those two, I think specifically, that was their game to remind the league and to remind players and to remind fans what hitting feels and look like. And they did it in a legal way. So I don't want to hear no. And I hate how people try to bash Azeez, make it seem like he's a bad guy, because he is not a bad guy. You do not win or get nominated for Walter Payton of the Year being a bad guy, right? So shout out to those two. Number 3, the Buffalo Bills game. And so obviously that was the 8-sack game. A lot of great things happened for Houston in that game defensively. 8 sacks, a couple of turnovers that made Josh Allen look human, right? But why that game was so important and one of my favorite moments is because that was the turning tide nationally for the Houston Texans. Buffalo had came into the game extremely hot. If y'all remember, the 4 games prior to playing Houston, 40, 28, 30, 44, offensively, they were hot. Josh Allen was himself again, but then he took on Houston like he did last year. 2 interceptions, 0 TDs, sacked 8 times. They beat up on an offensive line, one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, right? And we saw guys really get active, make plays for the Houston Texans, because also in that game, Woody Marks had a day. He was very instrumental in Houston getting that ball game early in the first half. But you also saw Christian Kirk finally get involved offensively. Jaden Higgins with a red zone TD. Those guys just played good football all around. But I think defensively, that was the game that put Houston on the map. After that game, the conversation started to shift around the league nationally. The conversations became, I think Houston can actually do it. If this team can score 20 points, the defense ain't going to allow more than that. And so that's why that game is so important. Coming in at number 3, we do not have 2 months, 8 straight games of good football, a win streak of football for Houston. If it ain't for one moment that changed the course of that season, the 4th quarter versus Jacksonville. Number 1, that was the game where the 2021 draft class came alive. Nico Collins was balling in that game. Davis Mills, he went crazy, 292 yards in the air, another 20 on the ground. The 1 TD that sealed the game for Houston. He had 3 total TDs, only sacked twice in that game. Nico Collins, 136 yards. Jaden Higgins, again, a touchdown in that game. And then you have a Sheldon Rankin walk-off interception. That was the game. The defensive efforts in that 4th quarter by the defense. And overall in that game, honestly, they limited Trevor Lawrence to 158 passing yards. In that 4th quarter alone, if we look at what Houston did, 3 plays by Jacksonville, punt, 3 plays by Jacksonville, punt, 3 plays, negative yard, and that was the TD for Houston to seal the game. Jacksonville couldn't move the ball. And if they get at least 1 first down in that 4th quarter, the game is over. We may not be sitting here today talking about Houston going into the playoffs. We may not be here sitting talking about Houston being championship contenders. We may not be talking about any of that. So that was the 2nd biggest moment for Houston. The biggest moment right here.
You guys good? You guys good?
That was D'Amico Ryan saying, don't worry about what I got going on. Y'all trying to look and find narratives. And I remember that week, it was a lot going on locally. And then I think that blew up just a little bit nationally. But that was a week. And that was a week where it felt like, from the outside looking in, and that's what I am, outside looking in, it felt like that could be a moment where if this thing goes down for Houston, we'll go back to that and say, look how D'Amico handled things. We'll talk about that moment. But that was a moment where I think he took it personally. Let's remember, D'Amico is a brother from Alabama who played at Alabama and was Houston's first-round draft pick some years ago. D'Amico knows about adversity, but he's also a former player who has to work with players to get a job done. And he understands that sometimes the media can meddle to make things a little bit difficult on what the players want to get done. So that moment, to me, was my favorite part of this year. You guys good? Don't worry about what we got going on here in Houston in my locker room. When we want to let y'all know something, we'll let you know. When we want to talk football, we'll talk football. That was one of the moments. That was my moment of the year. My honorable mention, I remember saying, if Houston doesn't beat Denver, they're not going to the playoffs. My honorable mention 2025 is just being completely wrong about that statement. If I'm wrong about something, I love to say I'm wrong. Houston did a great job of rebounding, did a great job of shutting us all up, and you have to respect it. So I want to just say to the Houston Texans and Texan fans out there, I am glad to be wrong about Houston not making the playoffs. When we come back, let's dive into a look ahead at the Colts. What do you want to see? Some things that Houston may want to look at doing, or should they sit players more locked on Texans on the way? Before that conversation, guys, Houston got a home game this week. Y'all gonna get out to them games. Rockets playing good good basketball, excuse me. Right? You got comedy events going on around you for the New Year's. You got concerts. Everything is going on. But NFL season is in full swing, and there's nothing like being at the game. The crowd noise, the energy, cheering alongside other fans, watching at home is great, but being in the stadium hits and feels different. The frustrating part has always been getting tickets, waiting in queues, dealing with logins, and watching prices change right at the checkout. I hate it. You hate it. We all hate it. But that's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NFL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I pulled up the Game Time app to check out all of the upcoming Rockets games this January. I know what I'm going. I know where I'm going, which game I'm going to go see. And Game Time made it easy for me. They also have zone deals, which really stood out. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seat, and you save even more. Knowing tickets are backed by the Game Time guarantee gives real peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets. With Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. One more time, because I just like to hear this.
You guys good?
You guys good? We all know what that good meant, right? Y'all good? But back to the Texans, we look at, just a look ahead for Houston. They take on a Colts team that's completely out of it. Boy, you want to talk about a season that has failed. It's the Colts. We all thought they was going to run away with the division. Jonathan Taylor was playing great football. Daniel Jones was playing some of his best football in his career, but things didn't work out that way. Now they got Riley Leonard who's going to start after the Phillip Rivers experiment. But what do we want to see from Houston? I think it's simple, man. We just want to see these guys create offensive rhythm without jeopardizing the health of the players. And that's really on both sides, right? I thought Houston did a very good job of tightening up on defense last week. They did allow, I think, was it 6 plays of 15 or more yards or something like that, something crazy. We know Houston has had issues with allowing explosive plays in spurts and moments throughout games this year, so they want to clean up on that. Do I foresee that being an issue with Riley Leonard? Not sure. This is the NFL. Any given Sunday is one of the more true statements in the sport, but you definitely want to see Houston defensively play great enough early on so they can pull some guys, right? I think Kamari Lassiter is a guy you want to pull. I think Derek Stingley, with that oblique injury being what it has been all year, if you can, you want to pull him early, get some of them other young guys out there to make plays, get them some reps, because we know that Houston's going to need all those guys hands on deck, right? Especially when it comes to just situational football, and if something happens, making sure that player is ready. So real game experience is important. If you can get Danielle Hunt out there early on, if you can get Will out there early on, right? Get Dylan Horton out there a little bit. Get some of those younger guys out there to get some reps. But for me, I'll go right back to the offense. Let's see what you can look like in the half of football against a team that ain't playing for nothing. I think that they're going to pull some of their starters. So we'll see how that looks like. Maybe they want to spoil Houston's chance to win the division. That's still in play. If Houston wins and Jacksonville loses, which I don't think we foresee seeing against the Tennessee Titan team, then Houston could win the division. That would change everything for Houston, I believe. But they could look to play spoiler, so they'll be playing for something, I think, for the Houston Texans. If I can get down to the specifics, I really want to see a full game and more so how it looks in the half of offense that's featuring Higgins and Noel a lot more. Those guys, it feels like they get their targets early on, and then later in the game, after they make a play or two, they become forgotten about. I think you can't do that in the playoffs. One of the better things that I saw C.J. Stroud do this year coming back from injury was the game, and that was at the Arizona game where everybody touched the ball. That was important. And I think that's a formula for Houston, considering they don't have a wide receiver too. It was supposed to be Christian Kirk. It ain't been him all year. So you got to operate and deal with Nico Collins as your clear-cut number one. Dalton Schultz is your number one tight end, your second option on this team. But this offense does look good when we are seeing for the Hutch, 4 to 5 to Higgins, Jalen Noel getting involved and Christian Kirk getting in where he gets in. So I think that's important. I also think it's important for Houston to see, just get the ground game going into the playoffs. It's going to look a whole lot different in the playoffs. And I understand that. But the Houston's offense, when they are able to score points, what are they doing? They are successful on the ground. So allow this to be a week of an extension of what practice has looked like, an extension of what success has looked like all year for you guys. Run the ball well. Run that ball well. And against the Colts, the first time around, Houston scored 20. They were at 108, a lowly 3.2 yards per carry, but they scored over. They rushed for over 100 yards. That's important. But I really want to see some of these players, like Cade Stover's in that mix as well. Because honestly, I don't think Cade Stover has warranted Houston bringing him back for a following year. I don't. You got to see what he can bring. You got to see what Noah can do. You got to see what Jay Higgins can do. Some of the guys that has not been as proven as the other guys, the vets on the team. This is a great game for Houston to win the first half, create themselves a good margin, 14 to 17 points in between whatever the Colts have. And then after that, put Davis Mills out there. Let Davis Mills get an audition for his next team. Let's do that. Because somebody's going to come calling for Davis Mills. I've been thinking teams have been wanting to come calling for Davis Mills since that Jags game. They're going to get to the offseason. They're going to work out something. Davis Mills, I think, is not going to be a Houston Texan next year. That's great for Davis Mills. Mills also at one point in his life was, I believe, rated higher at quarterback than, was it Deshaun Watson in high school in the state of Georgia? Something crazy like that. He in high school, he was like that. And a lot of scouts say if he would have went back to Stanford, for another year, he could have potentially been a first or second round pick, a high quarterback pick. So it may be time for Mills to go. This will be a great audition and take for him closing out the year. And overall, just don't let a team trying to play spoil your chances at getting that AFC South Division or staying where Houston is at the 5th seed. I think the 5th seed is perfect for Houston. I think whoever they play now, granted, Baltimore has had their number, and I said this on the crossover show. If they do play Baltimore, don't worry. I have a little trick. It's bad luck for me, good luck for you. I'll take the over on Derrick Henry. And it's almost guaranteed. If I take the over on the player, they are not going to hit that mark. So I'll look out for Texan fans in that matter. But get a lead early so you can pull some of these guys. Players have been banged up all year. Players have been fighting through injuries. Like Woody Marks, if we can get him going early and then pull him, I think that's important. He's left games and came back in, I think, 6 or 7 straight games until he missed a game. But that'll also give Jawad Jordan those reps, who's been a good runner for Houston. I also think maybe Houston wants to give Nick Chubb just a few reps in this game to see what he can bring just in case his number's called on. But lead the game with a dub, leave the game healthy, be ready for the playoffs, which will start in the following week. Future at right guard for Houston. Houston don't want to get Shaq Masoned. What do I mean? We'll talk about that when we return. More Locked On Texans talk. More Locked On Texans talk as we close out today's show. We look at the right guard position. Ed Ingram for Houston has played some good football. this year. I was looking at some of the numbers that Jason Braddock provided on social media, so shout out to him. The Texans right now, whenever they rush behind their right guard, they average 5.83 yards per carry. They're ranked second nationally. Shout out to when they rush behind the left end. So Ariante Ursary and out, they average 4 yards per carry there. And they've averaged 5 yards per carry, 5.8 yards rushing out the right end as well. So it's really the inside where Houston has to be better. Jake Andrews is a good of a pass blocker he may be. He struggles in the run game. I think that's also an area where throughout the year we've seen so many flips and flops at left guard. I don't think Titus Howard has been extremely better with the run game. He's been slightly better, but we know his ability to pass block is what really sets him apart from everybody else. But getting back to the right guard, again, that ranks him second overall, 5.83 yards per carry. But Houston don't want to get Shaq Mason. And what I mean by that is, listen, they traded for Ed Ingram. They took on a final year of his rookie deal. They traded a 6th-round pick for him. Right now, he's only making $3.43 million. I'm not saying only, that's a lot of money. But he is in the final year of his rookie contract, and Houston could very well look to extend him or keep him here. But what I mean by don't get Shaq Mason, Houston, how they found Titus Howard to move around and play all those positions, I think it would be smart for Houston to find a guard in this draft that they trust, that they believe can play left or right. That way, if something happens, if Ed Ingram does fall off a cliff, if this was a one-off thing, right, that way they can replace him. And I think what we all have faith in right now has been Cole Popovich's ability to coach these guys up. Every single offensive lineman that's played this year that was not that was with Houston last year, they played and looked a lot better this year. So excluding Ariante Ursary, excluding Trent Brown, who's a Pro Bowler in this league, Patterson, Juice, Ed Ingram as well, excluding him, but he was with Houston to start the year. But all of those guys from the year prior, they've looked better in some sense, in some sorts. All of those guys that came to Houston, and this was their first year in Houston, and years prior, they were not the best of players. Ed Ingram, Laker Thompson is the only player that still just was bad. But Jake Andrews, the rookie, Ariante, all of these guys that came in around the same time under Coach Popovich, they've either looked better than the years prior or they've met expectation or exceeded them in some way. And I think that's a nod to Coach Popovich. So we trust Houston's ability to coach up these guys at the offensive line level. But I think it would be smart for Houston to still look to invest. Number one, Trent Brown is also on a one-year deal. Do we foresee Houston and Trent Brown coming to terms for another year? Maybe. But let's also look at the tackle situation. This year, and I didn't talk about this in the look ahead, I want to see more Blake Fisher. Blake Fisher could very well be the future at tackle for Houston. And I think he should go to right tackle. Even though he looked good at left tackle, Ursary has been playing left tackle all year. We do not want another Titus Howard situation. Not going into the new year. So we can see that unfold. I think for Houston, it'd be good for them maybe to work something out with Trent Brown if he wants to come back on the mentor level to get some of these guys right. And maybe you leave Titus Howard at left guard, but they still will need backup at guard. I don't foresee Juice coming back. I can foresee Jared Patterson coming back. But with Ed Ingram's ability to play as good as he has this year, it's still in Houston's favor to draft a guard. Now, because of how he's played this year, and thankfully you got free agency before the draft, Houston can work out a deal, a team-friendly deal that gets him to return back under Coach Popovich. And so the hope is he is still a young player. Again, this is his final year of his rookie deal. The hope is that he'll continue to ascend under Coach Popovich, what they've been able to do here in Houston, and get better and get better. And the value has been there for Houston. Whenever they run behind the right guard, 5.8 yards per carry. Second best in the NFL. You want him to return. But when Houston had Shaq Mason that first year, They did not have a contingency plan if things went south. And what happened? Things went south. You don't want to happen two periods in a row where you bring in a free franchise free agent, or you trade for one, and then the following year the player falls off a cliff and they're not ready. This team has also been extremely good with offensive line depth, which is why I foresee Houston retaining Jared Patterson, of course, and may look to move off of Juice Scruggs. I think that next year will be the final year of their rookie contracts, so they don't have to go nowhere. Again, the future at tackle does look bright. Arian Theory, Blake Fisher, I think that could be where Houston rolls with moving forward, but make sure that they have a plan at both guard spots. And with how players are coming out now, they may start at left guard in college, they're finishing at right, vice versa. And when coaching is good enough, and when you have guys in their locker room, in your room that can help you as well, a player can succeed. What we've seen from Houston this year, coaching has been great enough, and Titus Howard doesn't get talked about a lot in this sense, has been the ultimate leader without having Larry Tunsil beside him. He's been the more tenured offensive lineman for Houston, and his leadership has shown. These guys play a lot different, and I think Titus Howard has a lot to do with that. So shout out Howard in that sense. I'm curious to see how Houston will go about continuing shaping their offensive line. I think that they've already started the reshaping part. They did a very good job of recognizing we got to get the last guy out, new guy in, which is Cole Popovich. We got to get some guys in that fit some of the things that we want to do. It didn't work out with Laken Tomlinson. Thank God they moved on from him. Ed Ingram has been a diamond in the rough for Houston. Not to say he's a diamond in the rough for the NFL altogether in the league, but for Houston, he was a great find. Worth the 6th-round trade. And he's playing some good football. I think the plan should be, let's re-sign him. Let's get him on a team-friendly deal. Let's also make sure that we have a guard replacement all together. Thank you for watching and listening to this New Year episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Meant just to have fun, spark conversation, right? Make sure you tell me your favorite moment or moments from the 2025 season. And if y'all want to get a little bit deeper on moments that may have been small but played a huge role, drop them. Let me know. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12, on Instagram at Some Sports Guy as well. Until next time, ladies and gents, the next time I'll see y'all, it'll be a new year, dog. Peace.